Hi everyone, this is Nancy Ellen with a Crafty Yarn Barn. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful car seat cuddle. It's a small blanket that you would use for a car seat or a carrier or a stroller for your baby. Super dense and thick yarn. It's made with Baby Bee Cuddly One Fast Asleep from Hobby Lobby. It's $6.99 a skein. I was able to get it for sale, so I believe it's on sale right now for $4 a skein. The color is called Fast Asleep. It's only 33 yards in each skein. I used 5 skeins. To be safe, I would say buy 6 skeins just to make sure that you are getting the size that you want. The size of this blanket is 36 by 30. If you wanted to take it up to 36 by 36, you would need 8 to 9 skeins of yarn. So just keep that in mind, that it is only 33 yards per skein. It's actually so beautiful. Look at the variegated colors that's on it. It's got greens and blues. It's got a little lavender purple and a white as well. It's got some gray in there. And it is a chunky yarn. Jumbo 7 is the size of the weight of the yarn. It does call for a P or a Q hook in the US. In the UK, size 0. I used the Q hook. I tried it out with the P hook. You can see how big it is. I tried it out with the P hook, but the stitches were way too tight and it was too hard to maneuver the yarn, so I went up and jumped up to the Q is the size of hook that I used. So let's get started and I'll show you how to make this beautiful baby blanket. The first thing we need to do is make a slip knot to put on our crochet hook. So go up a little ways so you can leave a yarn tail and go ahead and make your slip knot. I like to wrap mine around my fingers and take this yarn tail and push it right through where my fingers are. Grab it and pull it up and then put my hook right in that loop. You can take that yarn tail and pull it up a little bit and it'll come secure onto your crochet hook. First, before you get started, you need to decide how long that you want to make your blanket. I created mine 36 inches long. You can use this crochet stitch and pattern to make any size item that you want, length or width. So I decided 36 inches. So you need to decide that at first and go ahead and make your foundation chain that desired length. So I'm going to go ahead and yarn over and pull through and make my foundation chain to the desired length. One of the things I noticed about this yarn is you need to sort of keep pulling it up a little bit to keep it loose. It's easy to become too tight, the tension on your hook. So as I pull mine through, I pull it up and I give it a little more room so that I can pull it through and my stitches aren't too tight. I don't want my project to curl up. So as I'm crocheting, I go to the desired length, and I'll see you there in just a moment as you get to the length that you want for your project. Okay, we're back now. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get my stitch marker, my row marker, and I'm going to put it on the very last chain I did on the foundation. I'm going to stick it through there where the top 2 pieces of yarn are on the top, and then I have the bump on the back, so right in the middle of that stitch, because when we come back the other way, I want to be able to see it and be able to put my last stitch into that on row number 2. To talk a little bit about this yarn, it is a little bit hard to see where your stitches are. You have to use your hands and you're going to have to feel, so that's why I went ahead and put that row marker in, so when I come back the other way, I don't have to hunt down where that last stitch is going to be. It's going to help me easily be able to recognize it. The other thing that I'm going to do when I'm making my blanket, I'm going to crochet my first row into the back of the foundation chain. If you look right here, you'll be able to see on the front of your foundation how the yarn makes a V. Okay, these are your top 2 pieces of yarn, and if you flip it over, you'll be able to see the ridges on the back. I hope it's kind of a little hard to see with this yarn, but you can see right here where the ridges are on the back of your foundation chain. And we're going to crochet right into the back of the foundation into those ridges, because we're not going to put a border on this project because of how thick and dense this yarn is. And what this will do on my bottom, it'll make my project look the same on the bottom as it does on the top. It'll look more of a finished project in the end. So I'm going to take my hook, and if you see your ridges, I'm going to go into the third chain from the hook. So there's ridge number 1, ridge number 2, and there's ridge number 3. So I'm going to take my hook and go right between that ridge and those first two V's, first two pieces of yarn, which is the shape of a V on the front. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through. That gives me 2 loops of yarn on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through the first loop. That's a chain. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull it through the second 2 loops. And that right there is a single crochet. So this stitch is called an extended single crochet. We'll do it one more time. You go right to the next foundation chain. There's my ridge in the back. There's my 2 pieces of yarn the shape of a V on the front. I'm going to take my hook and stick it right into that ridge where the 2 pieces of yarn are on the bottom. Yarn over and pull it through. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull it through the first loop, leaving 2 on my hook. And I'm going to yarn over and pull it through the second two loops on my hook. That is an extended single crochet. And I'll do one more, and you'll do this all the way to the very end. And then I'll show you how to make your turn. Like I said, keep pulling it up. Now the other thing I want to tell you and share with you, if you have to rip out your project a little bit to correct a mistake, you need to be very careful and use both hands to work that yarn apart. If you start pulling on it, it starts pulling some of the fuzz, the chenille off of it. So just be careful as you're doing that and use both hands to gently pull it apart like that. So let me go ahead and get my stitch back up, and I'm going to crochet to the end, and I'll show you how to make your turn and start back the other way. So I'll see you here in just a second once you get to the end of your row. Okay, I've crocheted into the very last stitch of my foundation chain, and as you can see, it's a super nice finish on the bottom, and it's going to look really pretty in the end. So for us to go and make our turn to come back the other way, you're going to chain 2. So chain 1 and then chain 2. I'm going to get to my other row marker, and you see where it's a V right here. I'm going to stick it through behind both loops of those yarn and fasten off. When we come back the other way, that'll be our last stitch on row 3. So we're going to turn our work, turn it just like you're turning a page of a book. And we're going to use that chain 2 that you just made as a stitch. So that's going to be the first stitch on this row. And as you can see, it's right in line with the last stitch you made on the row prior. So we're going to take our hook and we're going to go to the next stitch, and we're going to go right under. You see the V of the pieces on the top right here? We're going to go right underneath there and put our hook in underneath both of those pieces of yarn. Yarn over and pull it through. Then we're going to yarn over and pull it through the first loop, and then we're going to yarn over and pull it through both loops on our hook. And we're going to go all the way down the row until we get to the end doing that same thing. You're going to go right underneath those first 2 loops of yarn on the next stitch. Go right into that. Underneath it, yarn over and pull it through, and then you're going to yarn over and pull it through the first loop, and then yarn over and pull it through both of those loops on your hook. Keep going all the way down, and I'll show you how to make your turn. Alright, we're to the end. I just did my last stitch there, and now I'm to the very end to where my row marker is. Now what I'm going to do is feel with my fingers where that row marker is. The top of the 2 pieces of yarn here, and the bottom is under here, that little ridge. I'm going to take that row marker off, pull it out, and I'm going to hold with my fingers there, and I'm going to stick my hook right where that row marker was, where the 2 loops of yarn are on the top of your hook, and back here behind it there's 1 loop of yarn. So I'm going to stick my hook thin, grab that yarn over and pull it through. I have 2 loops of yarn on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through the first loop, and then yarn over and pull it through the second 2 loops. And that finished my row. Now to start your next row, it's the same as you did when you started row 2. You're going to chain 2, so chain 1, chain 2. Where I took my row marker off, I'm going to put it back on, put it right there where the first 2 loops, top 2 loops are on the front, the 1 loop is on the back, and I'm going to mark it. When I come back the other way, that's where I'm going to finish that row, right into that stitch. Turn my work. Like I said before, your chain 2 is your first stitch on this row. You're going to go right into the very next stitch. You're going to put your hook underneath those 2 stitches, grab your yarn, pull up, yarn over and pull it through the first loop, and then yarn up and pull it through the next 2 loops. And that starts row 3. So we'll see you in a little bit once you get to the end of your project, and I'll show you how to sew those tails in if you've never done that before. So we'll see you there in just a little bit. I'm down to my very last stitch, so I'm going to yarn over and pull it through both loops on my hook. Then I'm going to take my scissors and cut my yarn, leave myself a pretty good yarn tail so that I can sew it in. I'm going to yarn over and pull that yarn all the way through that loop. And then I'm going to take my yarn tail and I'm going to pull it up secure and tight. And then I'm going to get myself my yarn darner, my needle, and I'm going to take my yarn tail and I'm going to weave it into the project following the stitches here. And what I generally do is I'll go a couple inches one way and then I'll turn and I'll come back the other way, and that's going to leave it nice and secure in our project. All right, that's it, everybody. We are finished with our baby blanket, and this is going to be a great little gift to give to one of my little friends that's had a grandbaby. And tune in next time and I'll show you another stitch pattern that is going to go really well with this huge thick cuddly yarn.